there's so much pressure on society for whatever this bollocks of whatever a perfect family is, or what you want, or what parents want their kids to be. It's learning what your kid wants to be, or what works for them. And certainly for us as a family, both my kids show up. They're both neurodivergent, and they both show up so differently. They are both the polar opposites to each other. They're so different. They get on really well, and it's wonderful. I love it.
Welcome to the Unconventional Business Podcast, your place for real stories of real people growing their businesses in the real world. Most of us are neurodivergent in some way, but of course everyone is welcome. This is the place for rule breakers, narrative dismantlers, and those who just want to forge their own unique path in the world. You will find no do it my way or 6 steps to 6 figures and all that BS here. My guests and I will offer guidance that allows you to take just the bits you like and easily apply them to your business. And of course, to bin the rest if you like. After all, building a successful business, whatever success means to you, is about creating something with structure and flow, not something rigid that feels like wearing someone else's clothes. Join me on this journey, and together, let's do business differently. Today I'm joined by the lovely Sarah West, certified ADHD coach and someone who I've connected with on LinkedIn recently a lot about the parenting chat of neurodivergent children. So although we are a business podcast, because a lot of people that own businesses are also parents, it felt like this would be a really interesting topic to talk about together. So thank you for being here today, Sarah.
Oh, thank you for having me on your podcast, Siobhan. It's really nice to be here.
Absolute pleasure. So we'll start with my favourite question. What makes you unconventional?
Well, I guess it's the same with so many of us who are neurodivergent, is that, we think out the box and we're not afraid to take chances. Sometimes they can be the wrong decisions to make, but I think I'm not afraid to put my head above the parapet a lot of the time. We've all got this sort of social injustice streak in us as well, and we speak up. And I think there's a lot of things about being unconventional I think I'm quite proud of, though, that I will just keep going with things. Sometimes I do want to stop things, but I think we're all, if you're right age group, we're like weebles, we wobble, but we don't fall down, or we do fall down, but we get back up again and try and keep going. So I think once I've got that idea or what I'm doing in my head, I'll keep going.
Persistence. I love that.
Yeah. Although some people might call it stubbornness or pig-headedness, I don't know.
But, that can really serve us sometimes. And I can really relate to what you said about that social injustice streak, I think.
Yeah.
Once we get something between our teeth on that. And I think, spoiler alert, parenting is probably one of mine.
Yep, mine definitely.
So, as I said at the beginning, you're a certified ADHD coach. So, how did you become a coach, and what was that journey like?
Yeah, well, it was, so I got my official ADHD diagnosis in March 2023. And just after that, the perimenopause hit as well. Things were really kind of falling apart a bit. The perimenopause and ADHD, when they hit together, can really be quite catastrophic for a lot of people. And that's what happened to me. And also at the same time, I was working. I was a senior nurse in the NHS for 20 years. I'd been I was a respiratory specialist nurse. So I was working and also supporting 2 children who were both neurodivergent, and they had quite serious struggles most days with things like attending school and just trying to find the right help for them, and also, supporting elderly relatives in various ways. And just everything happened all at once. And, I was really, really struggling. And a friend, I'd spoken to a friend on the phone, and she said, put the phone down and you phone the GP and you say, I can't work. And that's what I did. Because at the time, I just didn't really know what to do. So I phoned up the GP. I got signed off work for 3 months. And within that time, I got an ADHD coach. And they really, really helped me to really look at my life and really what I wanted from my life and what my true goals were. They helped me really believe in myself and really be kind to myself. And, all my life, I'd been very hard on myself because I didn't know I had ADHD. And I'm pretty certain I'm autistic as well. That I just really found that I could navigate these goals and what I wanted to do. And being a nurse, I love kind of looking after people, and I love kind of hearing people's stories and that kind of trusted space and being able to help them. So, I just felt very passionately that I really wanted to help other people who were neurodivergent as well. And it just seemed like, I had so many transferable skills as a nurse that I decided to give up nursing and retrain as an ADHD coach, which is what I did. So, yeah, there you go.
Wow, that's amazing. And yeah, a huge parallel for me.
Really?
It was having ADHD coaching myself that made me go, hang on, a bunch of transferable skills from mentoring business owners who belatedly, a lot of whom have said, oh, I'm neurodivergent too.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. What an amazing pivot to make at that point in your life, and what a positive outcome from, like you said, I can really relate to that idea of it just all happening at once. So I'm curious, were your children's diagnoses before or after yours? Like, how did that fit together?
So, my younger daughter's diagnosis was after mine. Again, it's all a bit convoluted, really. So both of my children, and I feel so guilty, my older daughter, who's 17, because I didn't really understand about neurodivergence until a few years ago. My younger daughter, I'd asked various teachers when she was at primary school, because I knew that there was something not quite right with her, and she had a lot of social anxiety. She had constant stomach problems, and she had tests and tests and tests, and they all came back normal. And of course, looking back now, I know this is autism related because she was so anxious all the time. But, I was always the parent at like birthday parties that she never let me leave. She was always hanging on to me and saying, don't leave me, don't leave me. And all these other parents would drop the kids and go, and I'd be the one stuck with this child clinging to me, crying like, no, and or at ballet or whatever she was doing anyway. But I look back and I see so many autistic traits which I just didn't understand. So I was told she was quirky, and I was told this, that and the other, and we carried on and carried on. Anyway, she's now 17 and she is now on the pathway to get assessed for autism. And then my younger daughter, who's 13, again, I had a similar thing in a way with her, but she's a lot more obviously autistic, ADHD. And funnily enough, when she was very little, she's quite demand avoidant, very strong-willed. And I'd always look at her and think, she's so much like me, so much like me. You tell her not to do something, she looks you in the eye and she just does it. And that's just what I was like as a child. I don't think I'm so much like it now, hopefully. But so again, I was told by many teachers, we were living in Oxfordshire at the time, and I'd asked 2 or 3 teachers at primary school, do you think she's autistic? No, she's not. And then I'd step back and I'd be like, oh, okay, and carry on for a few more years. And then we moved down to Devon. And again, I'd ask the teacher, do you think she's autistic? No, she's not. And it was only when she got to year 6 that she had a teacher who had an autistic son. And they came to me and they said, I think she's autistic and ADHD. And finally it was validated to me that this, and then we went through CAMS, but eventually it took 3.5 years. So you're saying, did they get diagnosed before and after? Well, the referral went off many years before, but she actually got diagnosed after me, if that makes sense, because the wait with CAMS was so flipping long and it was so awful. It was the most awful process, and it took us to hell and back to do that. So there you go.
What a journey for the 3 of you to all be on at a kind of similar time. And I was reading something the other day about, we're often going through perimenopause when we have teenagers and they're going through their own hormonal changes. So that's quite a like maelstrom of things all at once. And then you completely pivoting your career as well. Wow, what a journey.
I know. God. Yeah.
So how do you think the diagnoses for all of you have changed your approach to parenting?
Oh, I mean, the diagnosis obviously has helped, but it's just the awareness now. Once you've got that validation, I often compare in a way that the parallel that, for years when I worked as a nurse, you'd have certainly before I worked as a respiratory nurse, you'd meet patients who'd had like stomach problems for years and nobody knew what they were, or, they'd had these grumbling problems, and people would say, once I know what it is, I can get it sorted, once you know. But it's the same with your mental health, and it's the same with neurodivergence. And once you know what you're dealing with, I was misdiagnosed with anxiety and depression pretty much all my life, and problems with my, I realise now I've had PMDD all my life, and again, never knew what that was. I can't remember your question now. No.
That's all right. Just how your approach to parenting has changed given all of your diagnoses.
Yeah. But it's just understanding it. I mean, I've just been in this complete hyper focus for about a year and a half now, just reading and reading and reading, and and of course finding valid people who've got, it's knowing the people who are coming out with bizarre misinformation, but reading the relevant information and finally understanding really how it shows up and putting those pieces together, and just kind of just being able to understand so much better how it's showing up, and being able to support my children better and being able to advocate for them better as well. I've had things in school, certainly my younger daughter, when she went to secondary school, and she'd get told off for fiddling in class. If she'd done her work, she doodles a lot, or she's fiddling with stuff, and then she got sent out the room once at school. And she came back in floods of tears, but then I was able to contact her teacher and say, she's got ADHD, this is what happens. And they were like, oh, I'm really sorry. And they took the detention away, and, so that really, really helped. Whereas, I can remember when I was at school, I remember spending a lot of time stood outside classrooms. But yeah, it just means that then I can advocate for them more, and also they understand themselves more as well, which I think is really important, that they can recognise certain aspects of what's happening, and sometimes one of my daughters will say, oh, I'm really worried about this, but I think it's my rejection sensitivity, and this is because I know she struggles a lot with worrying that people don't like her, or and all those other sort of things, but she can name it, tame it. We call it in coaching that, and it's nice that then they can speak up for themselves, and we can have that talk, and hopefully that's helping them.
Yeah, it sounds like you've employed a amazing ADHD strength there of curiosity.
Yeah.
We are naturally curious.
Yeah, we are.
And done all that reading so that you can bring those things to them, and like you said, name it, tame it. But I think that's also a really beautiful gift to give your children, is curiosity about their behaviour. I think like my sort of soapbox about parenting is about based on the understanding that all behaviour is communication. And I think if I could wave a magic wand for all parents, I would instill that belief in them to drive their curiosity to go, cool, my kid's being a right dick today, rather than I'm going to shout at them, I'm going to squash them, I'm going to shame them. Just go, like I do to my son. Sometimes I pick him up and he's like, he has the classic, he holds it in all day at school. I pick him up. He sees me. We're starting to get more of the just, I've had a terrible day, fall into my arms and cry. But sometimes he's just a dick to me. And he's like, why haven't you brought more snacks? I want to go to the park. And I'm like, and I've learned, and I've practiced this day in, day out. And sometimes, like, I'm a human too. I don't want to get shouted at. And I go, and instead of me handing all that back to him, I go, oh, hey, what's going on with you, buddy? You don't seem like yourself. Are you okay? Should we go sit in the car for 5 minutes? And then we get the outburst of, oh, sorry, mummy, I just had a bad day. And then it all comes out. But it's because I'm bringing curiosity and empathy rather than judgment. And that's my, like, I wish everybody knew that. Because actually, when you know that, things get easier. Not harder. So what's your parenting soapbox? What would you like to help everyone realise?
I think it's listening to your kids, and listening to, I think sometimes as parents, and I've certainly done this in the past, you expect things to kind of be a certain way, but then you've also got to look at yourself as well and think about, because I know, like you were saying about when you pick up your son from school, like if I'd been at work all day, if I've done something where I know it's going to really time me out, I want to get home and I don't want to speak to anybody, and I need about half an hour or so just to sit and either stare at my phone or, you know, watch TV or something where I just don't want anyone speaking to me. I just need my headspace back. And actually doing the same sort of thing for my, you know, they get home from school or college or whatever they've done, and often now I'll just leave them and I'll, you know, sometimes I'll say to them, oh, how are things or whatever. But if they don't want to speak, I think that's fine. Just give it, you know, you go off and just, they need to go and like down tools and just sit and you know, and rather than me like, oh, blah, 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 at them. So I think there's that. And also just what you were saying earlier about kind of listening to your son and listening to what he was saying and things like that, just that other healthcare professionals or people in the education system could do the same thing. Like you were saying about how behaviour comes out. These kids aren't going into school. They aren't, you know, a lot of them, this is how they're communicating, how they're feeling, you know, and so many kids are labelled incorrectly, you know, in schools and wherever, you know, by society. Oh, they're a pain in the arse, or they're like, you know, they're not. This is how they're struggling with stuff. They're probably overwhelmed. You know, I'd imagine a huge amount of kids, if not all of them, who are badly behaved in schools, that, you know, they've all got serious struggles. I understand the education system is on its knees, and poor old teachers, a lot of them who are working so hard, but they haven't got a capacity. But it's just really, really hard that these kids are being labelled incorrectly as being a pain in the arse when a lot of them aren't. And I'm sure a lot of teachers appreciate that, but their hands are tied in lots of ways.
Yeah.
But my real fear, I just know for myself of what happened on my journey, that I could very easily have gone down really bad paths in my life and, you know, hung out with all the wrong people, who part of them were probably neurodivergent as well. But it's only because I mean, it's all so complex, isn't it? But, you know, I really could have got into a lot of trouble when I was younger, and thankfully I didn't. But, you know, you just live your life thinking, I'm crap, I'm rubbish, I can't do stuff. And that's what makes me really unhappy, is that there are kids growing up who believe they're not worthy and they're not worth anything, and they really are. And a lot of this is not their fault. This is how their brain is wired. You know, it's just really hard that society doesn't really understand that, and the education system isn't set up for them. And the only education systems that are private.
Well, it comes down to what you said actually earlier about looking at yourself. And when that, you know, when you look at the education system, obviously, like you said, capacity is a huge issue. But I think we're very fortunate where we live. House prices are extortionate here because of things like good schools. So we have an exceptionally good school.
Yeah.
There was a parents' evening last year where I said to my son's teacher, I was explaining how sensitive he is and how emotional he is. And she was like, oh, yeah, there are times actually when I say something and he behaves in a certain way, but maybe I could dig deeper with him to understand what the emotion is. And I was like, that's incredible. I actually wouldn't expect you to do that because you're his teacher. But she was open to the idea. I mean, the school is ridiculous. It's brand new. You know, it's a brand new team. All the teachers are super ambitious, all the latest training. Like, we're so fortunate. That's not what... When my son moans about the school, I'm like, mate, if I could show you an average primary school, you would realise how lucky you are. But it did make me think, you know, like how amazing that she's showing this willingness to really understand him and to dig underneath the behaviour. But it just made me think, your average teacher in your average school doesn't have the capacity, they don't have the resources, they don't have the time, they don't have the training. But to your point, given that understanding, like the trust he built with that teacher and the progress he made because he felt safe. Yes. And you know, he was able to admit things to her and be honest, and it just so different from my experiences. Like, my MO from very early on, what I understood was lie, deny. And I did a lot of very
Then me and my friend ran away from school at age like 6. We just ran away into the woods.
Yeah.
Like poor assessment of risk. Tick.
Yeah.
People pleasing, just went along with what my friend said. Tick. I mean, yeah, I was definitely labelled as a naughty kid, and I stood out having red hair. And then the thing is, like you said, you walk around with that label, and then you just believe that that's true. Yeah. And, you know, I spent years saying to myself, oh, yeah, I've got an addictive personality. No, I don't.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem, isn't it? Is without that core understanding early on, and those incorrect labels, like you say, you just believe I have a flawed personality, and that's what all of this is, without realising I'm just impulsive.
Yes.
And have a poor assessment of risk, and, you know, and then you go, oh, these are all things I can then scaffold and build things to help me. I don't have to internalise them as I'm crap, I'm a terrible person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very much so. And from what you were saying with, you know, your son's school as well, I think, you know, you'd hope there were more schools who are like that. Certainly, my daughter's secondary school, she's just started at a new secondary school, and they have been absolutely amazing. And they, you know, really from the get-go, even before she even started there, everything was centered on her, and they'd say, what suits you? They didn't even look at me. The Senko lady was so incredible, and she just said to my daughter, how does this show up for you? And she just asked her, and I was like, I love this, that she was really listening to her. And, you know, they were showing us around the school, and she was saying to her, are you okay? You know, you can look in this classroom if you want, but you don't have to. My daughter was like, no, I can't do it. And she was like, that's fine. She said, I can always go, you know, I can walk down the corridor, I can check over here if you want and make sure, you know, I can let you know. And everything was, she was so aware of all the things which might be affecting her. And I just thought, I love this. You know, and like you said, trust. I think trust is a huge, huge thing for all of us, and being able to trust people, to know that they are listening is really, really important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think it's when kids are being told that they are, you know, things are a certain way. And this is something I didn't do before, where I was a bit more of a passive parent when my years down the, you know, previously, where if a teacher had said to me, oh, what we need to do, because my daughter had struggled going to PE when she started this at her new secondary school recently, I'd message PE teacher to say, she struggles with this, and this is what she said is she needs to do now to start to be able to integrate. And they messaged me back and said, well, what we think is better for her is that she comes back in the lesson and does X, Y, and Z. And years ago, I would have gone, oh, okay, then. And I'll tell her, and like, no, this is what you have to do. Whereas then I was like, fuck you. And I don't know if I can say this, and I feel like I'm on the BBC.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So then I got back in touch with the Senko, and I was like, this won't suit her. This will make her worse. This is completely wrong. And they listened to us. Wow. Whereas years ago, I'd have gone like, oh, okay. And I'm like, no way, you're going to make my daughter worse. Her mental health is my priority. End of. That's the line drawn under it. And, you know, I was like, she can walk my dog. She can do this. If she sits and does nothing, I don't care. Her mental health is my priority, not being out doing cross country somewhere. So there we go. And that's my bottom line. And if they don't like it, I'd just pull her out the school or whatever. You know, I've just got to this point now where I'm just like, there we go. It's either yes or no for me now. Whereas before I'd be just, these are the people who know best. No, yeah. I know best as her mum. She knows best as well. I'll ask her, and then we'll devise a plan. So there you go. That's me on my soapbox.
I love it. But how wonderful that your kids have got you to advocate for them in that way, and that you are basing it on curiosity and empathy and giving them that autonomy. Yeah. You know, like that's the stuff that makes such a huge difference. Like I've been reading Gabor Mate, The Myth of Normal. I'm on a total like Gabor Mate obsession at the moment. And you know, this disconnection between the mind and the body and how we think about them separately and we treat them separately, it all starts because we erode children's trust in themselves. We override their gut instinct. We tell them how much they should be eating, you know, but like coming back to that thing of trust, if you give your child the gift of like, I trust you to be the expert in you from the beginning,
Yep.
what you raise is an adult who is able to hold boundaries.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop saying people pleasing. I discovered the phrase self-abandonment the other day, and I was like,
wow,
that's much more accurate.
Yeah.
People pleasing sounds kind of nice,
Yeah.
but it's not. It's dark. So yeah, they're much less likely to self-abandon, and they're much more likely to have the capacity to stand up for things in society that are
Yeah.
not okay, because they trust themselves and they're taking care of their own needs. So yeah, that is a beautiful gift that you're giving them. I'd love to come back to that thought that you were saying about doing the work on yourself, taking a look at yourself as part of this. Like, what did that look like for you? Because you know how it's too easy to blame stuff on your kids, isn't it? And then actually sometimes it is about going, oh, is this a me thing?
Yeah, definitely. I think, 100%. I think we definitely have to be accountable for our actions. And I think, so many of us in our generation, you're a lot younger than me, but in our sort of generations of, we were taught to, you listen to the parents and you do it like this and you do it like that. And, you do have to take accountability for yourself. And we're there saying, oh, my child's on screens too much, or they're doing this too much. And I'm like, but I know I'm on screens too much as well. And what am I showing them? I'm telling them don't do this. And then I'm on my screen, or, with stuff, whether it's linked with food or anything like that, where, you're saying to them, eat this, this and this. And I know that I've had bizarre relationship with food. Thankfully it's been healthy for the last up to 20 years, but I'm still, saying to my kids, to eat more healthily. And then I know in the evening, I'll have a chocolate bar or something like that. And I'm telling them not to. And I'm just like, we end up being so hypocritical.
Do as I say, not do as I do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, just, being kind to yourself, and just knowing that some days you just can't be asked to do stuff. And you can't be expecting other people to be doing the same, when some days you just don't want to do nothing, and allowing yourself to do nothing as well, which has been a really, really hard one for me, because you're kind of a bit hardwired to be like, I should be doing stuff all the time, and if I'm not, then I'm a failure. And actually it's okay. I think we need that. It's a really healthy thing to down tools mentally and physically, and you can just sit and just relax, and then you're better than equipped then to carry on with whatever you're doing the next day or whatever.
So true. Not have I worked enough to rest, but have I rested enough to do my best work?
That's great. That's very profound. I like that. Yeah, it's so true.
Definitely got that from Instagram somewhere, and I've kept it.
Yeah.
I say that to all my clients, because I'm like, where did this idea that we earn rest come from?
Yeah. It's mad, isn't it?
But yeah, if you can instill in your kids that it is okay to rest, it is okay to do nothing sometimes. But I think you're spot on there about the double standards. Like, kids learn what they see, not what you tell them. I read somewhere, everything you do, you give your children permission to do. And that really hit home with me. I was like, my kid's becoming a proper chocolate fiend, but that's because I am.
Yeah.
And he is on his tablet whilst the TV is on. And I'm like, why both? And then I'm like, because when the TV is on and you're watching someone play Minecraft, I'm on my phone. You don't realise it's because I don't want to watch the TV, but you're seeing me dual screening and you're copying me. Everything we do, we give them permission to do. So that's such a great relationship to be able to have in that moment, to see them doing something and go, that irks me, but then be able to look at yourself. And I think there's nothing more confronting than making a tiny human version of yourself. But not everyone is willing to look in that mirror, and then they will just shout at their kids and carry on doing that behaviour themselves.
And it caused, that caused a huge amount of conflict for us as a family for a long time. And we really had to look at our parenting and what we were doing, and it wasn't working. So we had to completely strip everything back and just think, right, what do we do? And again, I read, and we went to low demand parenting, and that helped so much more. And we just got to the point where, and my younger daughter in particular, she had very restricted things that she would eat. And, rather than be like, putting vegetables on her plate, I mean, she's never eaten, I think she's eaten like about that much apple in her life. That's the only bit of fruit she's ever eaten. But you've do kind of find things that she'll buy bought smoothies. And I know everyone's like, oh, everything's got to be fresh and everything else, whatever. But for us, it was like, but she's eating.
Yeah.
And she's eating something. And, rather than putting that pressure on yourself to give her, fruit and vegetables, and then she can't eat it, and then we get frustrated, and then she gets upset and has a meltdown, and then it all goes to shit. So rather than that, she went through a phase where she only ate Yorkshire puddings. So she just ate Yorkshire puddings. I was like, that's fine. She's eating. I don't care. And, and again, as they were growing up, it was like, I'd always had it in my mind that, you eat as a family and you sit at the table and blah, blah, blah. But if that's not working, or if people are needing different things, I've had to completely relearn that if they want the TV on, they can have the TV on and they're eating, and that's fine. And then we can still talk. Sometimes I will say, can we just sit and talk about our day today, though? Because I think this and the others happened. But, I think, again, I just had to strip everything back to their mental health and what was working for them, and so that we kept communicating. And things are, we do still have a lot of bumps in the road, but they are less than they were, touch wood, touch anything, and it's, so they can trust us and they can talk to us, and we find we're just navigating things in a different way. But, for me, the most important thing was that both my kids' mental health had really taken a big dive at different points over the last few years. And I just had to turn everything around to have that as my priority, and just think, right, how can I help you, or how can we help you, and how can we learn to parent you and to support you the best way for you. And really listen to what they were saying. So I think I've gone off piece from what we were saying.
That's so lovely to hear. That's so lovely to hear, because you're prioritising your relationship with them over everything else. You are giving yourself a lot of permission there, like you said, to take the pressure off, and just, not everything is a hill to die on. And I think stripping it back and really thinking, what really matters here is so important, because in this day and age, it's so easy to be like, they've got to be eating world food by age 5 and getting 4 hours of daylight. And, there's so much information out there that you're consuming all the time, and everyone's putting a highlight reel on social media of their perfect family, and actually checking in with yourself and going, what do I really care about? And for me, it's similar.
Yeah.
I really don't give a shit about whether he can't sit down whilst he eats. And I'm like, I can't be asked to care about that. He'll either figure it out or he won't, but it's not a hill to die on.
No.
I don't give a shit how much TV he watches.
Yeah.
If he's still quite happy to go out and do a walk and go and do activities, fine, who cares?
Yes.
For me, what I measure my parenting on, or what I've come to measure my parenting on, is how safe does he feel to tell me the truth?
Yeah.
Like the example I was giving you before we hit record, there was something he'd messed up on, and it took until the last minute before bed, but he did open up and tell me. And am I the person that he comes to when he's in trouble? And how kind is he able to be?
Yeah.
And how well is he learning to regulate his emotions? I mean, all the rest of it. This sense of acting a certain way in a restaurant, and I'm like, I just cannot be asked to care about that stuff. I can't be asked. That's the gift of perimenopause, isn't it? You don't have those extra fucks to give anymore.
Yeah.
They're not in the budget.
Yeah, exactly.
And my window of tolerance there is no window of tolerance for me energetically anymore.
Yes.
So I just don't have that to give, and I have to prioritise what matters to me. And if that means I get funny looks because I won't force him to apologise, I don't believe in forced apologies. If it makes it awkward with another parent, so be it. If he is the kid being a bit noisy in a restaurant, so be it. I don't take him to fancy restaurants where that would annoy me. If it's in Pizza Hut, get over it.
Yeah. And I think society really... There's so much pressure on society for whatever this bollocks of whatever a perfect family is, or what you want, or what parents want their kids to be. It's learning what your kid wants to be, or what works for them. And certainly for us as a family, both my kids show up. They're both neurodivergent, and they both show up so differently. They are both the polar opposites to each other. They're so different. They get on really well, and it's wonderful. I love it. But as a family, me and my husband are quite active, and we if we go on holiday, we like climbing mountains, and we like getting out and doing bits and pieces. And we spent time we had a holiday quite a few years ago where we were in Scotland and we wanted to climb a mountain, and it was just hideous because my younger daughter hated it, and I'd taken sweets to bribe her, and it was just 8 hours of her going, I hate this, and it was like, come on, we're going to do it. Why? Because that was my, I was like, oh, I've got a family and I'd love it if we went and did this and this will be nice. But actually that didn't suit her at all. And the realization that we don't have to do it. Yeah, we can do things but we'll do this is her holiday as well. Let's do something that's nice for her rather than this preconceived idea of what we were thinking we should be doing as a family. Let's go and do this. But if she didn't like it, then let's not, let's do something else. And I think, that's really important, I think, for parents to, that your kids, it's not, of course you want your kids to learn to swim and to do all these other group, whatever. But if they're not sporty, doesn't matter. Find what they like. My daughter loves gaming. My younger daughter loves gaming. My older daughter is quite outdoorsy, and that's brilliant. But we've embraced it, and she loves being on Minecraft and Roblox and, and everyone's like, hey, you shouldn't be on screens. I don't care. She's happy. That's helping her, as long as she's safe. And, we've talked to her about online safety. And of course we have to keep talking to her about, it's an ongoing thing when they're quite young, but
let them be who they are.
Exactly. Don't make them, force them to be something they're not, or what you think society or what you think your wider family might. I'm not saying that's happening with my wider family, but I think there's so much pressure that from so many external sources where you're feeling you have to be a certain way and you don't. We're there. Our job as a parent is to love our kids. That is our job.
Yeah. And love is really about what you do, not what you say.
Yeah.
It's in those everyday actions where you trust them, where you are curious about their feelings, where you make space for them, where you encourage them to have autonomy and be the expert in themselves. Like that's love, isn't it? I feel like I could talk to you about this all day, but I can't.
You too. Yeah.
But it's been such a great discussion. So if people listening to this are neurodivergent themselves, which they probably are, or suspect or know their kids are, and maybe they're having a hard time with parenting, like, do you have a sort of first step of something they could do to help?
I think trust your gut as a parent. And I think going, whether you're talking to a healthcare professional or a teacher, I think firstly, I've heard so many stories of people that have gone to, and I'm not saying this is everybody, but I know people have gone to Senkos or teachers and said, I think my child's in there, being like, no, they're not. There are some amazing Senkos out there and really supportive people. But I think if you go to somebody and they say, they dismiss you or invalidate what you're saying, trust yourself as a parent and know to find a different way. You'll find someone else, whether it's a different GP or healthcare professional, or talk to a different teacher, but trust your gut for your kids. I would say definitely, and listen to what they are saying. And we're there to advocate for them and support them. I think it's finding what they need as well and asking them how this might be showing up for them if they are neurodivergent. And, I found a lot of really great support networks online and people that really understood, because there's so much shame and guilt and misinformation when you're a parent of a neurodivergent kid. And, it's very easy to feel that everybody else is coping, and they've got their kids going to school and blah, blah, blah. And you're there like, I couldn't even get, my child refused to even get out of bed and they won't do this and they won't do that. And it's really, really, really tough. And just to know that there is support there, but it's finding those support networks. But there are some really lovely like Facebook groups and forums where I could speak to people, about my worries. But I think it's trusting yourself and your kids, and then looking into what you do, what they want, whether they would be happy to have a referral to get potentially get diagnosed, or is asking your kids where they are at that time as well and what they want to do. But I think as parents, it's incredibly hard, the pressure that we're under to feel that we should be a certain way. And of course, we've got all our baggage as well of how life's treated us, or, you know, how we've shown up. And certainly for me, processing my own neurodivergence when I got my diagnosis, that was massive for me as well. And to suddenly realise all the things that had happened in my life, which actually were linked with being neurodivergent.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good first step there, is to trust yourself. And I think getting support, connecting with other people on that journey helps validate how you're feeling and helps you to go, actually, no, I am onto something here. So yeah, really important. Yeah. And I would add to that, read, get books, listen to podcasts, listen 100%. To the experts, the scientific studies, and just educate yourself, because then you are able to do exactly what you gave such a great example of earlier, of advocating for your kids, because you've got the facts. Thank you so much for today. I've really enjoyed it. If people have enjoyed listening to you, how can they find you online, and what can they expect when they do?
So my website address is www.sarahwest-adhd.com, or my email address is hello@sarahwest, all one word, -adhd.com. So they can look at those. I'm on LinkedIn as well. And so I'm an ADHD coach, so supporting perimenopausal, menopausal women, and also families and individuals, helping people to really, look at what their goals are with their ADHD, how things are showing up for them, and learning to be kind and compassionate towards themselves, and how to navigate their ADHD. Yeah, I just really, really love, I've worked with some really, really lovely clients this year since I've qualified. So, and it's just very important to me to be, providing a really high standard of care for my clients, and to help them navigate their ADHD better.
Fantastic. I love that. Well, keep up the good work and the good parenting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been really lovely chatting.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please do drop this podcast a rating or review. I'd be ever so grateful to reach more of those that need to hear it. So I'd also like to ask you a favour. Who do you know that would benefit from listening to this episode? Please hit share and send it to them too. Thanks so much for listening, and I can't wait to see you here next time. Let's do business differently.